Yeah, hi guys, welcome to JMeter demo session. So we are just about to start the session in next 2 minutes. Just waiting for others to join. Just 2 minute waiting, right? Meanwhile, can someone confirm online attendees if I am properly audible to you and if my screen is visible to you as well? Okay, I got it. You are able to see my screen and I'm audible to you as well. So guys, by default, you are on mute. So if you have to talk during the session, you can just unmute yourself. And if you're not able to unmute, please ping me, give me just ping me in the chat. I will be giving you unmute so that you can talk. If meanwhile you have question, just post me in the chat box. I will share my email ID as well. If you have any further question, you can drop me a mail as well. Okay guys, so let's get started with the session. Before I start, I would like to introduce myself first. So my name is Amit Gupta and I will be your instructor during this session. So currently I'm working as a senior performance engineer in a product-based company in Noida and having more than 4 and 5 years of experience in performance testing and engineering part. So both of the part, testing and engineering I handle. Basically, I have worked for Java applications running on Linux machines and .NET application as well. So tools that I have used is JMeter majorly, load runner I have used as well, WebLoad and other tools. But majority of the work that I have done on JMeter and load runner. For analysis, I have used Dynatrace, Neuralink, and Stigify. So throughout this session, we will discover the more about JMeter and how can we use that tool in our performance testing. Okay. So this is what the agenda of today's session. First, we will go for a overview of performance testing, what actually performance testing is, and we will see that how JMeter can play a role in performance testing. So performance testing is a domain. JMeter is a part of that domain. So how JMeter can play a role in that doing performance testing. Okay, so there are other topics as well that why we need JMeter. There are other tools available as well. So we will discuss on the features and benefit of JMeter. And so this will be a roughly 10 to 15 minutes theory part. And further, we will move on a practical session. In that, we will be creating a test plan. We will execute a performance test plan, and finally, we will generate a report. And in the end, we will be having a question and answer session. So you can put your question, you can talk to me. So there is a question of Vikas. We'll be getting the recording of this session. Yes, we are recording this session. So you can get a recording of this as well. All right, so let's start it with the overview of performance testing. So what actually performance testing is and why we need that, right? So on theory part, you will get a definition kind of thing like performance testing is done to validate the stability, scalability, and the responsiveness of an application. So this is what the theory part is. Just give me a minute. There's an option. Okay. Okay. So what performance testing is, right? So we were talking about performance testing. I believe that most of you guys are from testing background and have some idea about the automation and manual testing. So you have basic terminologies as well, that what testing is, why we do testing. So testing is basically done to evaluate the actual quality of the application or anything, right? So this is one of the part of testing, that performance testing is one of the part of a testing like manual and automation. So we do performance testing of any application or any object to find out actually quality or actually in the term of software application, actually the responsiveness and resource utilization of the application at a certain point of time. So there can be many factors involved in that situation, that what is the load of your application, what is the CPU consumption, and so many things, right? So I will, to make these things, to make this thing simple, I will give you an example that we use in our day-to-day life. Okay, so take it an example of your cell phone. So you have a cell phone and you use your cell phone on daily basis. You make phone calls, you make you text someone, right? You browse internet. So for daily stuffs kind of things, you use your cell phone, and your cell phone responds well. It runs fine without any lagginess, without any slow performance. It performs well. But in some situation, you will find your cell phone responding slow or a bit of lagginess. So you will identify that there are a lot of background applications are running, right? So there are applications that in background mode that are running, and that causing your phone performance slow, right? You will find a lagginess in that. So what you do, you clear all recent application and your phone start performing well, right? And there another situation can be if you run any heavy load game on your heavy game on your mobile phone, like PUBG or any other game, your phone will definitely going to perform slow, right? So these are the situations that are created and that makes your phone performance slow. So in that situation, you can say that, we can say that your phone performance is not so good, considering those factors when you are running any heavy application, when there are a lot of applications running in background. So, but if those things are not happening with your phone is performing well, it's running smooth, it's running fine, right? So taking these as an example of your website, if you are running a website, your website will, most of the cases will perform well, will perform definitely good, okay? Unless you put stress or any overload on that website, right? As like we did with your phone as well. So when your phone was not running any background application, not running heavy game, so when your phone was not in a stress situation, not in an overload situation, it was performing well. But when we stressed out your phone with heavy game or with running background application, your phone performance was degraded, right? In the similar way, if your website having no such load, no user load, not in a stress mode, not overloaded, so your website is going to perform well, right? But once your website is loaded with millions of users, thousands of users, right? Some background activities are going on, your application or your website is going to perform slow, right? So how can we make that situation to your website? Because if someone is asking you to do a performance test of your website, actually find out the performance of your website, that how much your website is faster enough, how much your website is good enough in terms of handling user load, in terms of giving proper response, I mean giving response in millisecond or in seconds. So how can you make that situation with a website? Because if you are going to test your website, performance test your website without any load, your website will be going to perform well, right? But our objective is to overload your website first and then find out the actual performance of your website, right? So you got an idea about what actually we are going to do. So we are going to do, we will be having a website, and to find out the performance of that website or to do a performance testing of that website, we are going to overload that website first. In the meantime, we are overloading that. We will find actually how well your website is. How is the response time of your website? How many users is being handled at the point of time? What is the CPU utilization of your website? And so many other factors, right? So many other statistics that we are going to cover throughout this session. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Do we perform performance testing or load testing?
Okay.
Both are different thing or both are same thing?
So you can say load testing is a part of performance.
Part of performance.
Right. So performance testing is a set. Load testing, stress testing, volume testing, endurance testing is a subset of that. Right. So is a part of that. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Do we test the performance of website or the server on which it is hosted?
Exactly. So your question is, do we test the performance of the website or the server on which it is hosted, right?
Yeah.
So you have a server, right? You have a server with 4 GB of RAM or 8 GB of RAM, 4 core of machine. So whatever configuration you have, right? Definitely you are not going to test the performance of that machine. I mean that you can say a physical machine, right? So on which the application on which you have hosted, you are going to test the performance of that application, because your application is you have to measure that how performing well your application is, how much CPU it has consumed from your machine, how much memory it has consumed from your machine. So your objective is to make your application to consume less memory, response fast, less CPU, response fast. So our objective is to test your application on which it is hosted, not of the machine, because your application is a Java based application that can be hosted on any machine, right? Our objective is to test the performance of the application. This is our what objective is.
Yeah, let's say on a server,
right?
So we'll check the response of the application on that particular server,
right?
What is the response our application on that particular server?
Yes, exactly. And how much CPU it is consuming. So our objective should be our application should not consume much CPU. Our application should consume less CPU, less memory, and response fast. Right? Right. Okay, so you got an overview of performance testing, that what we do in terms of performance testing. So what performance testing is? So performance testing is to evaluate the characteristics of a application. So characteristic could be response time. So if I note down here something, so performance testing is done to evaluate the characteristics of the application. So these characteristics can be response time, number of threads handled, CPU utilization, memory utilization, all right, response time, number of threads, CPU, memory. What else? This IO, you can say data transfer, right? So data transfer in the sense KB per second, right? KB per second. So all these stuffs. So we do performance testing of any application to determine these things, and to actually conclude that at so many users, so running 1000 users, your application response time was 900 millisecond with 60% CPU utilization, with 40% memory utilization, and all these stuff depend upon the data transfer at 24 KB per second. So these much of kind of things, right? So we do performance testing to evaluate those things, these things of any application. So that application can be a web application, database, this can be an API, it can be a REST API, or other application it can be. Okay. So whatever application you have to test, you will be doing performance testing to determine these kind of things, and finally you will conclude that your application is able to handle this much users of load with this much of response time, with this much of CPU, with this much of memory, and having this data transfer rate. Okay. All right. So now come to our first example. So to evaluate the actual performance of your application, you need to put some load on your system, right? Like in our mobile phone case, we have left with all the applications running in background that caused our mobile phone response slow. You started a heavy game on your mobile phone that started degradation of the performance of your mobile phone. All right, so we made a situation. So we stressed out our application, our mobile phone, right, to actually evaluate the performance. So in the similar way, how will you stress out your application? So if it's a web application running on a URL, it's hosted on somewhere running, you can access that through a URL www.something.com. Right? So this is what your application is, to which you have to do performance test. So to do performance test, first you need to overload it. You have to stress out it. You have to load it with so many users so that you can actually find out the performance of the application. Because if there is no load on the application, that is going to perform well, right? So to generate load on this application or to overload this application, we need to use some tools. So one case can be, so I'm taking another example to make the things more clear. So there are some season sales that happens on Flipkart, Amazon, or other websites, right? So at that point of time, if you are in between the sale, you will notice lagginess. If you are going to add some item in your bag that is not going to add, it's going to spin over time. It taken 2 minutes of time and finally timed out, right? So what happened at that point of time? Because there are a lot of users actively using that website, either it can be Flipkart, Amazon, or any website, actively using that website, doing the same activity that you are trying to do, right? You are trying to add something in your bag, hundreds of thousands of users trying to do so. So at that point of time, Flipkart response time is not so well. It was responding in 1 second at that, but now it's responding in minutes. Okay. So what is happening? So many users are there active on the website. So the same situation you have to made with your application or your website, that you have to do performance test, right? So in that situation, that on your website some sale is going to happen, so that you will be prepared that these much of the users can be easily handled by my website, and beyond this my website is going to be in problem. So you can make a decision that if I need to add some more CPU, if I need to add some more memory, or what tuning can be done for my website, right? So to avoid these situations, we do performance tests. So we need to generate so much load on your application or on your website. So how you do that? For that, definitely you are going to have many of users to actively using your website. So your website will be overloaded. So in real scenario, you cannot manage or arrange so many users. So we need some tools that generate, or that you can say simulate users on your website. So these kind of tools are load generators. You can say load generators, or load generator is fine. So these are the tools which comes under category load generator. So these tools are available in the market: JMeter, Load Runner, WebLoad, NeoLoad, and many more, right? So these tools are used to generate load on your website, so that actually you can find out the actual performance of your website, that with these many users, this is what the CPU, this is what the response time, this is what the memory, and this is what the stats of your website is. Right? This is the overall objective. This is the overall objective of our doing performances. Here we are trying to achieve these things during this session, right? So load runner, I'm not sure that how much aware you are about this tool. So this is paid tool. Webload is free up to 50 users. And about NeoLoad, I'm not sure about the license, that how costly it is and for how many users it is free. But this is one that is not free. I'm sure this is licensed one. But if you talk about the JMeter, it's totally free of cost. You will not be going to need any license because it's open source as well, developed by Apache, right? Just a minute. So I'm getting so many questions from the candidates. There is one question. Is there any baseline for CPU? Is there any baseline for CPU memory disk that we can say it is performing in better condition, and when we can say it is not performing better? So this is one of the questions asked by Umakant A. So the question is that, is there any baseline for CPU memory and other statistics that we measure in performance testing, there, so that we can, on the first run, we can say that this is beyond SLA or this is not performing well? So no. So to first answer to your question is no, because there is no such strict baseline, because all applications need some different CPU, some different resources. So if your application is lightweight application, that is going to need some less CPU, less memory, less disk IO, less network transfer rate. But if your application is heavy, handling so many data, interacting with database and doing a lot of stuff, that definitely going to consume high CPU and high memory. So there is no such baseline. That totally depends upon your application. So just I would like to add one more point as well. So if you are going to test any application at very first time, you need to create a baseline for your application first. If you are going to test first time, you have to take a baseline. You have to run a test with some users for some duration and take a baseline kind of thing, that with that much of user, you are having this much of CPU, this much of memory, so that you can refer later on running your next test and you can compare with that data. You have to define the depth, you have to define the baseline your own, but that should not be so much high. You need to have an idea that if your application is not interacting much with the data, if it is not interacting with the third parties, then its response time should not be 5 seconds on 10 seconds, right? So there is a SLA kind of thing, service level, SLA. There is an SLA that is being given by the developers or by the engineering or architectural team, that you will be having, that your application must respond within that much of time. That is what the SLA is. So if you are within that SLA, you can further optimize your application. But if you are going beyond that SLA, that you need to raise, right? You need to raise with some data that we have performed this much of test with that much of user, 1,000 users, but the SLA should be 1 second or 2 seconds, but it is going beyond that, right? So you can report with the stakeholders, with the engineering team, with the architectural team. Yeah. Service level agreement. Right. Right. So there is one question as well. IRCTC's website is very slow at Tatkal booking. So that happens. I'm not sure that why that is so much slow, and this is not the right time to answer that question. Well, all right. So that happens. I'm not sure that how much that is optimized, but there is some limitation or there is some boundary of the application or the system that you cannot go beyond. All right. Okay, so what we were talking about the load generator. So what JMeter is, JMeter that we are going to learn here. So we are not only bounded to JMeter, along with JMeter, we are going to learn all the concepts that are related to performance testing. And we will touch the performance engineering part as well. At least we will show that how you can monitor the CPU and other characteristics of the application where your application is hosted. Either it can be Azure or Linux machine. Okay. So our objective also throughout this session, if you're going to join this, so I'm just going to make it clear that we are not only bounded to JMeter tool, that we are going to learn only tool related concepts, but definitely to learn tool thoroughly, you need to aware about the performance testing concepts and terminologies as well, that we are going to thoroughly cover in throughout this course. Okay. So JMeter is a load generator tool that generates load on your website so that you can actually evaluate your website performance during that load time. What is the CPU, what is the response time, what is the memory, and all kind of stuff. So I think that this line has been covered, that what is the role of JMeter in performance testing. So the role of JMeter in performance testing is to generate load on your application, on your website, on your API, on your application. That application can be any application. It's a HTTP application.
We have to observe the CPU utilization, memory utilization, and all this stuff, right?
Sorry? Putting load. Because if you are not putting load on your application, if there are no load in your application, so your CPUs will be in idle state, right? It will be 3%, 4% utilized. So this is not actually the performance testing. The performance testing is what that we are evaluating, actually examining the condition that if our website is loaded with 1,000 users load, then what would be the performance of my website? What would be the CPU utilization? Is it going beyond 90%, 80%? So in that case, it will make your application down. So we are actually doing performance tests to evaluate those conditions first and to make those conditions working fine in that critical scenario, in that critical situation, if you are going to have that much of users of load on your website on live. Okay. So yeah, so what was your question was? So we are going to measure the CPU and memory kind of things during users load. Yes, exactly. Obviously.
Of the server, right?
Of the server, because your application is hosted on a server. So your application is consuming the resource of that server. So your target is to, because if the server is not up and running, your application will die. If your server is down, your application will die. So we have to stop your application to consume much memory and much CPU so that your server will be up and running and your application will running fine. So not only the consumption, but the response time as well. So your application should be running faster enough.
Also calculated throughput. What is that?
So throughput can be anything in terms of how much input is there and how much output is there. So throughput in terms of JMeter is the hits per second or request per minute, whatever you can say. So how much hits you are making to your application from your JMeter. So I will come down with that point. Okay. All right. So just taking another question. Just a minute, guys. So okay, so there is one question from Nandish CL. So in this course, will you teach performance testing only or even performance tuning also? In performance testing, which type you will be covered? Okay, so whatever type we have, load, stress, endurance, volume, all will be covered during this session. And we are not going to cover only testing, because performance testing is what only limited to making scripts, executions, and just reporting. So reporting only includes your client-side reports. Client-side in the sense your report that is generated on your JMeter side. Response time, throughput, and data transfer per second, 95% response time and 99% response time. So these kind of stuffs are basically bounded by the performance testing. So, but if you go beyond something, performance testing, so if you go beyond performance testing and jump a bit in engineering side, you will be having an insight of the server. So what actually the performance of your server is, because right now, if I am going to hit any application that is hosted somewhere, so if I hit Google, if I hit Snapdeal, if I hit Flipkart, I am not actually having insight of the server of that application. I am not having the access to look at the CPU statistics or memory statistics of any hosted application that are running live. But if you have to test your own application that is hosted in your premises, or that you have access to, you can go inside that. If it is on Azure website, if it is a Linux machine, you can SSH over there. If it's a Amazon AWS, you can go in the portal, you can have a look what is the actually performance of the CPU, how CPU is performing, what is the utilization of the CPU, how much threads are running over there, what is the memory. So I will guide you through that direction as well. Okay. So I believe that I have answered the question, what is the throughput? Throughput in the terms of JMeter, it's a hit per second or request per minute, whatever you can say. Generally, we in a work culture, we say it TPS, transaction per second as well. Okay, we refer it in the term of JMeter. It is referred as throughput.
How much your application is handling per minute?
Right.
Yes.
Is handling, or first you need to generate that.
Yeah.
First you need to generate the request, that with how much, with what rate you are hitting your application. So I think there is something that you are not actually clear on, but if I move on the practical part, that definitely you will get your answer. Okay. All right. So okay, so there is another thing. I think that there is a one question that I got about the what was that? Overview of any code profiling tool and dump analysis. So Umakant, actually this is beyond this course. We are not going to deep dive into analysis part, or you can say code profiling kind of things. Definitely that is one of my profile part, that I do analysis for the application as well, using other tools like I mentioned Dynatrace or Neuralink or Stickify. But this is what the beyond of this course. So if you have to ask, or if you stuck somewhere, definitely I can answer you outside this course, but this is not covered in this session or in this course content. Okay. All right. So why JMeter? So can someone like to answer why JMeter we are going to use to generate load? Other tools are available there. Load generator is, load runner is there. Neoload is there. Webload is there. So why we are going to use JMeter? Right. So one of the major thing, one of the major point to use JMeter, it's free, open source. Another thing is cross-platform. So cross-platform in the sense, JMeter is a purely Java-based application. It's a Java-based application that runs on Java. And you know that if any application is running on Java, that does not depend on the platform. Any platform running Java, you can run your application. So it can be run on Windows, it can run on Linux, it can run on Mac OS. So whatever platform you have, only you need to run Java there, right? So it's a cross-platform. It's a Java-based application. It's cross-platform, which can run on Windows, Linux, Mac. All right. So one more point I would like to add. It's definitely it's open source. One more point. It's easy to use. It's UI oriented basically. So you're not going to need a lot of programming skills. Very minimum programming skill is required. Even you can create your test plan by dragging, dropping the things, okay, just on clicks as well. So it's a UI oriented, it's fully IDE. So all the things you can do inside JMeter. You can create a script, you can create your script, or if you are not exactly aware about this term script, you can create your test plan, right? You can create your test plan inside that. You can debug that, debug the test plan, and you can execute that, or execute in the sense you can run performance test, right? And you can generate report as well. So all these stuffs you can do within a single tool, that is JMeter. So
report can be generated using in any other add-on or in the JMeter itself.
So earlier there was some difficulties in generating report, but in the build 5.1.1 onward, so that is currently I'm going to demonstrate that the report function is included in that, so you need not to go to add any add-ons or kind of things. It's included in JMeter itself. All right, so as I said, it's cross-platform. So JMeter you can run on any platform. Even if you have created a script or test plan, that test plan can easily move to any platform. If you have created on Windows, doesn't matter. You just copy that test plan, move it to your Linux machine or Mac OS. Just drag and drop that into JMeter, and that will be ready to run from there as well. Right? So it's totally independent. Irrespective of platform, irrespective of OS, you can run anywhere. Only the JMeter should be run over there. To run JMeter, only the Java is required over there.
Java is required.
Yeah.
JMeter, right?
Yes, exactly. So now let's jump to the practical part. So I'm not sure that how much of you having JMeter already installed, but no problem. Just go to Google. Just Google about download JMeter. Right. So, and before that, so I would like to add one more point. So pre-requirement is you need to have Java running in your system. So how to set up Java and how to set up environment variables. So those kind of things, I think you can Google, and basically, yeah. So these things are already covered so far. How to set up environment variable and how to set up Java kind of thing. So definitely, I believe that Java would be running in your system. So you can go and download JMeter. On the very first website, jmeter.apache.org, download jmeter.cgi. If you are on a Windows platform, go to binaries, Apache JMeter 5.1.1.zip. You can .tzz as well. You can untar that on Linux machine. No matter, you can download the zip as well. You can move that zip on your Linux machine as well. So any format you like, you can download that. Since I have already downloaded.
This is for Linux OS.
ZZ is different format. Only it's a compression format. It's not for Linux OS. This one you can also run on Linux as well. So you only need to download this one .zip.
So for Windows, we will go. What is source?
Source is something different. So source is what you need to if you have download that source, you can change something. You can recompile that if you have to add something in JMeter because it's open source, right? So since it's open source, you can download the source as well.
You can add
this is not the compiled version. So if you download the source, you can add something code of your own in that code, right? You can customize that. You can compile later and then you can run that. But since we have not going to make any change, you need to download binary format, right?
Okay.
So either, yeah. So I would recommend download the zip one. Okay. So once you downloaded that, go to download and extract that. So upon extraction, you will be getting a folder kind of like this, Apache JMeter 5.1.1. Double click on that folder. And to run JMeter, you need to go inside the bin folder, right? So here, just note that if you are on a Windows platform, you need to double click on jmeter.bat. And if you have to run that on Linux platform, you need to execute jmeter.sh. So there is sh as well. You know how to execute some script in Linux /sh, right? So you can invoke this sh file if you are on a Linux machine. Okay, so meanwhile, there is a question that which programming language do we need to write test scripts in JMeter? So you can use Java and you can use other languages as well. There are many languages options. JavaScript you can use. JSR language. You can use bin shell language. So there are other options as well. So I think there are Perl as well. Python, I'm not sure, but there are options to use language. Just I'm going to show you that how many languages you can use. But for now, you can use JavaScript, Java, GoJava, and JSR 223 if you are aware about that language. Bin shell, quite enough. But I say that most of the people are aware about Java, so it would not be a problem using Java in JMeter. And for that, so if you have to use programming as well, that would require that would be required in very high level of test plan. But for basic kind of test plan, you will at an initial level you will not be going to need programming skill. But throughout the session, if we go upon 3-4 sessions, more than 3-4 sessions, so in mid you will be learning about JSR 223 and bin shell scripting and Java scripting as well. So you can use that language. Okay. So since I am on Windows platform, I am going to run JMeter by clicking jmeter.bat. So once you double click, it will find the Java and launch the JMeter. So this is what the UI of JMeter is. So pretty simple, but pretty powerful. So when I used JMeter very first time, I was actually wondering that what this is. There is nothing such, right? So it's a clean UI. There is nothing added by default, because if you go to the UI of any other tool, LoadRunner or any kind of tool, so you will find so many options there, right? But this is what the simplicity of JMeter. It's not preloaded with so much stuff that you're not going to use. So it's simple, right? So just add what you want, right? So it's not a kind of block kind of thing that all the things are preloaded and it's heavy, right? So this is one the simplicity of JMeter as well. So these are what the features of JMeter. Since we have launched JMeter, now we are going to move to just create a test plan. That how we can create a test plan in JMeter. Test plan in the sense many other people refer it as a script, right? Yeah, so we are going to create a script or a performance test plan in JMeter. And after creation of that test plan, we are going to execute that test plan. And after the execution, we are going to generate report as well. Okay, so meanwhile, any questions that you guys have, if you have to talk, you can unmute or just raise a request. Just ping me. If you're not able to unmute yourself, I will unmute you.
What are the new features in 5.0 from last version?
So there are internal enhancements that happens, but one of the major features that I found is the generate HTML report. I got 1.1. Earlier, this generate HTML report was not there in the tool menu. So to generate HTML report, you need to go to the command line. You need to supply some command options. So that was some tricky kind of thing. But since this is added in the UI part, you can easily generate your report, HTML report.
And if you want to generate the report in the form of charts like pie chart or figure or all
Right.
those kind of things.
Right.
Then we can integrate in this tool, or that will be generated in USP.
Okay, so the report that is generated initially by the JMeter is a raw data. You can even you can use that data in your Excel sheet. Okay, so you will be getting in a CSV format.
Yeah, I know.
You know, right?
Can
So
we get, import all those data in the form of CSV?
right, you can import those all data in form of CSV. You can open that in Excel sheet, and if you have data in your Excel sheet, definitely you can generate charts as well.
By Excel feature.
By Excel feature.
Not from the tools.
From tool feature, you can get the graph. So there are time series graph.
Yeah, listeners, different type of listeners we can do.
Listeners are different things. So I will demonstrate you. So listeners are different things. Listeners
Okay.
will show you a graph kind of thing. So runtime listeners, even you can add, you can see the response time in a graph manner as well. But later on, if you want to generate actually graph from that data, you can do that
In JMeter.
in JMeter. Okay. All right. So which programming language you already covered? What all things test plan consists of? All right. Is prior programming language is required? Myself manual tester. So no. For JMeter, you will not be going to require any high level kind of programming language, but it would be great if you are aware about the variables kind of thing, if you are aware about the very basic programming that we have learned during our graduation courses, basic programmings like for loops and variable kind of things, right? While, for, if, else. So that would help you in creating an advanced level of script in JMeter. But for basic kind of scripts, you will not be going to need any programming language skills. So for Java, you will be needing only basic Java, not the high level or advanced Java is required for JMeter tool. So what kind of graphs we can generate, I am going to demonstrate you. We will be cover during this test plan. All right, so let's move to the test plan. So there was one question that what things that is consist of a test plan. So just give me a minute. So at a high level, your test plan will be needed. So in my example, what I told you that performance test any website, you need to generate load on that website. So to generate load, you need to have so many users, right? Or since we are not generating actually users, so we say it virtual users or V users. This is what the terms load runner use, V users, right? But what JMeter tells it, a thread. So in terms of JMeter, we will refer a virtual user as a thread, right? So if we say that we are going to run 5 threads test, then we are going to hit your application with the 5 users of load. Means whatever the flow in your test plan is. So flow, what flow is? Anyone aware? Flow. So in manual or automation testing as well, we cover some flow. Like if we have to validate add to bag functionality, then a flow must be going to your launch page of your application, searching for a product, adding that product to the bag. Okay, so that is the flow, that you are launching application, searching for a product, adding that product to a bag, right? So this is what a flow. If you have to cover a sign off flow, then you must be going your application, logging to your application, doing some activity, and finally sign off. Okay, so flow in the sense you are covering a specific specific path to achieve some functionality, right? If you have to test your account section, then you must be log in and click on your account page, right? So this is what a flow. So what a flow generally consists of in the sense of a e-commerce website, a high level flow can be you go to your website launch page, search for a product, add that product to the bag, okay, place order, and then sign off. So this is what a flow is. Okay, so we users or in the term of JMeter we say thread. So if I say that I'm going to run 5 threads test, it means 5 users test. So those 5 users will be executing the flow that we have added in our test plan. Okay, so what flow is? A flow can be, so in term of, so now I'm going to hit a website, say Snapdeal. Okay, so I'm going to hit a website snapdeal.com and I'm going to cover this flow. So not flow, but what a flow can be. A flow can be launch page, search for a product, search a product, add product to bag, right? Checkout, payment, place order, right? So launch page, and you can say login as well. Login, search for product, and log out. So if I do this activity, this is what a flow is. And if I'm going to make a test plan with this flow, okay, so this is what our test plan will consist of. Right? Okay, so to come to your main question, that what other things will be included in my test plan. So first thing, that a thread group. So thread group, what does it? Generates threads or users or V users, which are virtual users. Why we are saying it virtual? Because these are not real users, right? So first thing in your test plan should be a thread group. So you will be having a thread group to generate users. So what those users will do? Those users will hit your website, right? So how those users will be hitting your website? Through help of sampler. So sampler is what? In which you put your URL of your website. So if you have to hit Snapdeal, if you have to hit Google, if you have to hit Amazon, you need to add a sampler, and inside that sampler you need to put the URL of your website. Actually, these are the JMeter elements. So not to worry about that, what these things are, what is thread group, what is sampler, what is listener, and all of this stuff. So these are the components of the JMeter that JMeter has named those components. So these are the components, right? So thread group, what do? It's generate threads. Sampler, what does? It's hit the website that you have put the URL inside that. What listener do? So there is one more component as well, listener. So it will listen, or you can say it's gives you the reason. Since you have generated some users on your website through the help of sampler, but you need to read the result as well. That what was the response time and how many users has gone, was that response successful or some failure? So those kind of things you need to view. Those kind of things you need to add listeners in your test plan. Okay, so these are what the 3 basic elements of the JMeter that going to need for a very basic test plan that you are going to create. Okay, right? Kuldeep Sikka. So unable to unmute. So just give me a minute. Yeah, Kuldeep. Have you any question? Please talk. I have unmuted you, so if you have any question, you can talk to me. Deep, you there? Just put your question inside the chat box if you're not available right now. I will answer you back. All right, so we are going to create a test plan just to hit website snapdeal.com. So this is just for demonstration purpose, and I will request you not to hit Snapdeal with so much of users, because this is not a legal point that you can overload any other website that you don't own. Okay, so if you have to test any website or any performance test any website, you need to own that website, or you need to be authorized to hit that website with so many users you want, right? But for now, just for practical or for demonstration, I'm going to hit this website with a very minimum number of users, and I will request you not to hit that with so many of users. So you should not go beyond 5 or 3 or 4, right? Or if you want, I can provide you a demo website that you can run on your local machine, and then you can start your performance testing by hitting 1000, 2000, or until your system dies, right? Okay, so I think so. You should not.
We do performance testing of web application, database, and API.
Right.
If we have the performance testing of API,
right,
then what would be the URL place to put the API URL?
Right. So every API should be having a URL.
URL. To complete the URL of the API, you put inside the.
So I will show you. So there can be other parts as well. There is one URL, there is URI part, there are some you can say query parameter, right? So all those parts have different places in JMeter. So where you have to put the body, where you have to put the header, where you have to put the query parameter, where you have to put the path, where you have to put the domain, where you have to put the port, where you have to put the protocol, either it's HTTPS or HTTP. So many things, right? Right, so I'm going to create a test plan for Snapdeal. For that, first thing I'm going to need add a thread user thread group. So these things are not so many familiar to you if you are not attended or if you are not used JMeter earlier, but not to worry, because these things cannot be covered in such a short period. So just accept it that there is a thread group that can be added in a test plan by right clicking or by going add thread user thread group, which is responsible to generate load on a website that you are going to test the performance of that. So thread group is just to generate thread. All right, so where you are going to generate thread on a website, for that you need to add a sampler, and sampler depends upon what kind of website you are going to test. If you are going to test a database, you need to add JDBC sampler. All right, JDBC request. If you're going to test a website that is running on HTTP or HTTPS protocol, you need to add HTTP sampler. If you need to test a website that is a kind of TCP website, you need to add TCP sampler, and so many. Even you can test mail servers as well. A mail reader sampler, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, TCP, and other samplers. So simple mail transfer protocol. So if you have to test mail server, you can use SMTP. But to be more clear, this is what HTTP request that is 95% being used in JMeter to test the your application, that is even API as well. If you can test REST API through this HTTP request. And some portion, if you have to test database, you need to use JDBC, but these are FTP or mail SMTP. So these are actually going out of scope, because all the current companies are not hosting their own mail servers. They are just buying the subscription from Google G Suite or from Microsoft. So they are using their mail servers, right? So these are definitely you are going to very minimum use of these samplers. So majority of the use you will be needing of this HTTP request that can be used to test your website running on HTTP or HTTPS protocol for your API as well. So there is an option here, it's a name. You can put the name of the website that you are going to test. So for now I'm going to put it as Snapdeal. Right, so protocol Snapdeal uses HTTPS, right? So if your website is running on HTTPS, you need to put HTTPS. Otherwise, by default, it would be HTTP. So most of the websites are now has moved to HTTPS. But somehow, if your website is on HTTP, let that blank. By default, it would use HTTP. Server name or IP. So server name or IP would be www.snapdeal.com. Right. Port related by default. If your application is running some on other port, you can put your port here.
By default, port of
HTTPS is 443, right? But if some applications, like if I have a local application, let me demonstrate you. So in C drive, I have a web tour of HP. It's a local application that runs on my local host on 127 host at port 1080. Right? So if I have to test this application, I need to put port 1080 here. Right?
where application is put on that port 3 application.
Like on port the application is running on.
Yeah.
By default, it's the HTTP application run on port 80, HTTPS on 443. But along with that, if there is some port on which that application is running, you need to put that port there.
Port number is
80. What is the difference between the GT Matrix web-based tool and JMeter? So I'm not exactly aware about these term GT Matrix. I'm having this question for later. I will try to answer you. Oh, okay. What's the difference between GT Matrix web-based? GT Matrix web-based. Kuldeep, just put your email ID as well. Just do me a favor, just drop this question on my email address, which is jmeter@way2automation. Yeah, jmeter@way2automation.com. Just put your question on this email ID. I will revert you back with the answer. All right, so since I have changed it to Snapdeal, it's not reflecting here. To make it reflect, just click anywhere. It has been reflected, right? So HTTPS snapdeal.com, and you need not to put any port over here. Path you have not to put because I'm not going to hit other pages, but the launch page itself. All right. All right. So if you go to, so take this example, right? So I'm having an application. This is what the server name or IP is, right? 127.0.0.1. This is what the port is, which will be put here, 1080. This is what the path is, /web2/index. So this will become inside path portion. So this is very common, right? If you go to Snapdeal, and if you click something, right? So this is what the path is. Apart from the domain name that comes under path. There is one more thing that comes under query parameter. This is what the query parameter is. This is, you need to take care of the question mark. So this is what the path actually. This is what the path is, and this is what the query parameter is.
most of the path is getting hidden. So how is it getting?
So on SPA application, single page application, these paths are hidden, right? So I'm not sure that what exactly.
Application are basically because it's
Mm-hmm.
and we see these parts getting
Right.
sometimes it is encrypted.
So there can be another approach to test your application in that situation. Why to test that application from UI? Why not from API side? Because the overall load you are getting on an API, right, or on the application that is such kind of application. If that application is on a MVC application or ISPA application, single page application that is interacting with a API running behind the application, we are not concerned about the UI part, but because that will be taken care from the UI side, but we are concerned about the server response time or the API response time or the response time of the application that is running behind the machine. So another approach where you are unable to hit your application from UI, you can hit that from the API side. No, you must be having that API path. You need to contact with a stakeholder, you need to contact with a developer, so that you must be having the to hit API you need a authentication token as well. So definitely you are going to connect with other team as well to get the you need to be authorized to get that API, right? Okay, so you got the path portion as well, right? So for now I need no path. Okay, so what this test plan is for now. For now, I am going to get snapdeal.com with HTTPS protocol, right? With method get with one thread. See here, this is the thread group. So there is a hierarchy in JMeter, right? So inside that thread group, whatever elements are there, that is being. So this is what override all the things. So inside this thread group, whatever elements are there, that would be applicable for all the elements. All right. So one thread will run this snapdeal.com for one loop count. One loop count in the sense, I'm just saying that, hey, thread one, go to snapdeal.com, hit that, and just return back. Right. So if I make it 2, so what I'm instructing this, what exactly mean it? I'm saying that, hey, thread 1, go to snapdeal.com, return back. This is your iteration 1, and I'm iterating it for loop count 2. Again, you go, hit the snapdeal.com, go back. So make it 2 count. Right?
Number of thread is 2.
Number of thread is 1, but the count is 2. I mean, the user is 1, hitting snapdeal.com, coming back, hitting snapdeal.com, coming back. Yes, one thread hitting snapdeal.com 2 times, right? One thread hitting snapdeal.com 10 times. So if there is one thread and I instruct that hit snapdeal.com 10 times, so what would be the flow? It will go, come, go, come, go, come. So one request goes, one thread goes, complete the request, get the response back. Once that is completed, it will start the next iteration.
Okay.
Right?
The number of threads will increase the number of thread 10.
So there will be
number of count is 1. Then that will be the same.
That will be the same, but in the first situation, one thread going through a website, hitting, coming back, going to the website, hitting, coming back. So in that situation, your website will be having a maximum 1 user flood. But now, if I have a thread, 10 threads, so all 10 threads will hit your website at a single point of time. So all, right. So this will be a problem for your website as respect to first one.
That loop kind of things, that is.
It's not a loop kind of thing. It's a one time activity. The previous one was a loop kind of thing. Yeah, one thread, loop count of 10. So this is the main problem. This would be the best scenario for your website to test on a stress way, right? We want our website to hit in a more realistic way. Our objective is to kill my website or to find out that performance. So this would be the more critical situation that would be for your website as compared to first one. It is just like you are releasing 10 users at a single point of time, saying go, right? Go to your website, hitting all 10 users home page at a single time and coming back. So you will get a spike. Tatkal booking, exactly. This happens during the promotion or offer period that happens on Flipkart or Amazon and kind of things. Because users are just sitting on add to bag button, right? And just at the point of time clock triggers, they just hit, right? So this is what the problem for your website. That makes problem because all the users coming quite fast and doing the activities, right? So I'm not going to run for 10 users or 10 threads. I'm going to run it for 1 and 1 just to demonstrate. So if I will run, I will not be able to see the what the result is coming. So to see the result, so these things are something pretty not acceptable to you for now, but just accept it. Like to see the result, I need to add some listener, that is view results tree. So there are other listeners as well. That is aggregate report, I like most, right? So these two reports I'm just adding for now, just to see that what is the actually happening when I'm hitting snapdeal.com with 1 thread, 1 loop count, right? Let me save that as plan so that it will be easy on a desktop. On desktop, make a new folder, JMeter, and say it Snapdeal. Yes, plan. I have saved that. Just a minute, guys. So Ranbir Kumar ka question hai. So method will be always get. So it's not necessary. So it depend upon that what method your website is accepting at that point of time. Since all the launch pages are get, but if you are going to log in the website, the method would be post because you are posting some username and password over there. So that depends that what method the website is allowing at that point of time. If you are going to add some product in your bag, add to bag if you are going to do, you will be posting. So that at that point of time method will be post. If you're going to make payment, you are posting some credit card details or ATM details or something, some details. So that would be a post method, right? That depends. So at that point of time, what's the method your application is demanding? So there is one question. You have checked one option. What is the use of delay thread creation until needed? So this is what by default checked, I think. And if I have checked, then no problem. I will let you know what this this option is. So let's say you have 100 threads to run, and you say that ramp up those 100 threads. So I'm not sure that if you are aware about the ramp up time as well. All right, so delay thread creation in the sense you can say if you have to ramp up these 100 threads, man. So to make you understand this option, I need to first make you understand the ramp up concept. So ramp up is what? Let's say I have to run 100 threads test for my website, but this is not the real situation that all 100 threads would hitting my website within a single minute or within some seconds. So what happens, like some users are coming. So one user comes to your website, you stay idle for some time. Second user comes, third user comes. So if your website is having 100 users of load, so those 100 users has reached your website not in a minute, but in some 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes of time. Not at a single point of time that all 100 users comes, start shopping, right? So this is what we say a gradual ramp up, or you can say a gradual entering your website. So just a minute, I'm just trying to make it more clear. So if you have 100 threads, right, and this is what your application is, so you have to run all those 100 threads in your application, right? But those 100 threads are, if all those 100 threads are getting started at a single point of time, your application will be in a trouble state, right? So to avoid this situation, what we do, so this is one of the test case that we do. It's called a spike testing, but in general scenario, what we do, we say these 100 threads that go to application in 10 minutes of time. In 10 minutes of time, enter the application and then start activity over there. So this is what the ramp up time. This is what the ramp up time. So we say that, hey, user 1 start at 1 second, user 2 start at 2 seconds, user 3 start at 3 seconds, user 4 start at 4 seconds. So in this way, I say that user 100 start at 100 seconds, not at a single point of time. So in that way, your application would be having some time to get those users allowed in the system. Right? Got the concept?
Yeah. Let's suppose 100 users. Right. And I should ramp up in 10 seconds.
10 seconds. So if you have 100 users and a ramp up period of 10 seconds, so 100 users will be divided in 10. So one user will enter your application in 10 user will enter your application in 1 second. 10 user in 1 second. In this way, 100 user in 10 seconds.
Equal time will be divided.
Equal time will be divided for each, right? So if I have 100 users and I say that enter the application in 50 seconds, so 1 second, 2 users will be entered in the application. If I say it enter in 10 seconds, so per second, 10 users will be entering your application, right? So this is what the ramp up time is. So in this way, if I have 100 users and I say that enter the application in 100 second time, so per second, per users will be entering the application. But I will be needed 100 users at 100 seconds of time, not just right now. So what JMeter do, if you have 100 threads to run and this option is not ticked, it will initially start 100 threads. It will start 100 threads at the very beginning and then start ramping those threads based on this time. But I'm going to need 50 users at 50 seconds of time and the 100th user at the 100 second of time, not just right now. Getting my point? But if I tick delay thread creation until needed, so the user will be created at the point he is going to enter the application or when that ramp up time is started. No. So this is not the option. For now, you will be not going to need that. This is what I use for memory utilization kind of thing. If you have a application that if there is some memory related problem in your system, you can tick this option. Otherwise, this is no worry, right? This is not the one option that you need to worry about that. I think this is I know that this is what a confusing kind of option for now, but this will delay the creation of thread based on the ramp up time. So I have given 100 threads to run, but I have given 100 seconds of time. So 100 thread will ramp up the application, entering the application in 100 seconds. But if I did not tick this option, all 100 threads will be started at the very first time, but will be entering the application. But all 100 threads has been started, right? And all 100 threads are waiting to their time to enter the system. But all 100 threads has been started. That I'm not going to need that, right? Because I'm going to need initiated first, right? Thread will be initiated first, but will not entering the system. But if you tick this option, the thread will not be initiated as well. It will be initiated at the time or started at the time it is going to be needed. All right, so move to the part. I'm going to hit snapdeal.com. Aggregate report and tree. So tree is used for debugging purpose. We use this report listener view results tree to have a detailed data of what has been sent in request, what is in response. So let's run it for now. 1 and 1 and 1. Let it be. All right. So saving the test plan, view results tree. This is what the play button. So if you click it, it will run one thread and will hit this. I'm going to hit it. It has started and it has completed. So quick. Right? So what just had happened? I have sent a request www.snapdeal.com, right? This is the default header. So I am not sure that if you are aware about these things. If you are not aware about these things, header and kind of things, so in the coming sessions, I will let you all the things. I will let you know all the things. But for now, I have just left the things with the default options, what was there. If you look at the sample result, so load time is 2 to 8 millisecond, connect time is 64 millisecond, latency is 114. So all these terminologies has different meanings. I'm not sure that how much you are about the load time. So load time is what your complete response has arrived to JMeter. Latency is what the first byte has arrived. So not to go in much detail for now, right, because these are terminologies. So few terminologies are there for reporting purpose that you need to learn. So these are a hour kind of thing. So 1 hour you will maximum be needed to understand these terminologies, like header size in byte, body size, and all these stuff. So if you go to the aggregate report, there is a median, average. So these are statistics kind of terminologies. Average, you know, median, you know, right? 95 percentile, 99 percentile, all these stuffs I will definitely let you know, but not right now. So throughput is what the request per second. This is 4.4 requests per second I have sent to the Snapdeal. One interesting thing I would like to show you.
For each request, we can calculate throughput.
Right. For each request, you can calculate throughput. Overall, you can get throughput. Right. So there is the HTML option. If you go to the response, so this is what a HTML kind of view shows to you. This is what the page is. That looks like Snapdeal. Right. So this is what the data written. We are on right page. Right. It's an awesome offer and kind of things, right? Order, shortlist, SD card, login. Right. Now I'm going to run it for one thread and iterate it for 5 times. So what will happen? One thread will go hit the website, snapdeal.com, come back, go again, come back, go again, and we'll repeat that for 5 times. Clearing the result. There was a result, right? I have cleared that through clear all. You can make it clear as well. So clear all clears all the listeners' result. Clear results the one that is selected. I have cleared all result, previous result. I'm going to run it for one thread, 5 iteration. Right, so run it. Oh, so quick. Right, so here I have hit Snapdeal. If you go to the response body and HTML view, you will see some HTML kind of data. So this is what. And if I go to the aggregate report, just try to understand a bit. This is the label. Label is what we have put here, Snapdeal. That will show in label. Samples are what? How many samples we have made. So these are 5 samples because I have iterated that 5 times. If I make it 2 thread and iterate 5 times, the sample would be 10. This is what the average is. Okay, so what was your question? So in 212 milliseconds, since okay, so not to confuse, right? So because we are not going in much detail for now, because if you are trying to go in detail much now, you will be, because this is what the first session, right? And you are not much aware about the terminologies and the things. So just try to understand that what exactly happening right now, what I'm trying to make you understand first. Now we have hit one thread for 5 iteration that makes 5 samples. Average is this. Response time is what in it's the average response time. So average of 5 samples is 212 milliseconds. So this is what in milliseconds. So you will be wondering that response time of Snapdeal is in millisecond. That generally takes seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. But note that if we hit snapdeal.com from here, since JMeter is not a browser, right? We are not going to test that application from browser perspective, but from the response time perspective. Okay. So if you look at that, I have just hit the snapdeal.com, the first one, which is shows the response time of 522 milliseconds here. Right? The total response time is 4.4 seconds. So this is what the total of all the JS, all the CSS, all the images includes, right? But what we are measuring the response time of only the snapdeal.com, the first hit of snapdeal.com, which shows a response time of 522 milliseconds in my browser, which is almost close to my JMeter as well, because it's a millisecond, so it's almost close, we can say, right? So the response time of snapdeal.com is 212 milliseconds, median is 198. So these are the terminologies. If you like, I can explain that, but I say that not to go in terminologies for now, because these are some statistical terminologies that takes a bit time to understand, a bit in the sense around half an hour or 1 hour that I need to go through. For example, for explanation, go through the Excel, right? But if you want, you can just Google about these terminologies. What is 95%, 99%? These helps identifying the result, what exactly your result is, how much it's real to performance, how much it's close to performance, how much it is stable, right? Error was nothing, and throughput was 4.7 per second. So 4.7 per second in the sense we are hitting snapdeal.com at a rate of 4.7 per second hits. So from JMeter, our threads hit Snapdeal at a rate of 4.7 per second. No, we have run for one user, yes, one user, and for 5 iterations. Yes, exactly, because see, the response time is 212 milliseconds. So you have 1000 milliseconds in a second, right? If you are able to do something in 200 milliseconds, so how many times you can do that in a second? 5 times. So exactly. So we have 212 milliseconds. So I am able to do that 4.7 times in a second. 2.212 milliseconds. Right.
Exactly. One average response time
is 212 milliseconds.
Yeah. One user is 212
milliseconds.
Right.
So yes.
Yeah. And what would be the 4.7?
So just leave about that. One user is hitting in 212 milliseconds. Yeah. So how many times that can hit in a second? 5 times. Almost 5 times. So this is what almost 5 times. 4.7 is almost 5 times.
Okay.
All right.
That is about 5 samples. Right?
Just forget about sample. Not about sample. So we are saying that a thread is able to hit snapdeal.com 5 times in a second. And how it is able? Because it's able to complete one sample in 200 milliseconds. Right? In that way, the throughput is 4.7 per second.
5 users in a second. In 1 minute. That is
no. Throughut is completely different. Throughput
is exactly any calculation formula kind of things by which we can calculate.
Yes, exactly.
User or time.
Yes, definitely you can. But do you think that this is the right time to calculate, go into the calculations? Right, there is a formula, because initially if you have an application, right, you know the response time of that application, then you need to design a scenario that how many threads can generate how many load. That depends upon the response time of your application. If your application is responding fast, minimum threads can generate maximum load. If your application is responding slow, you need to lot much of users to generate some loads. So there is a strong relation. There is a strong relation between response time and throughput achieved based on the user, number of user. Got it? There are some questions. On my system, it is not checked by default. No problem, Pooja. You can make it checked or just leave it unchecked. It will not impact your test plan for now. So this is about the thread delay thread creation. So just let me uncheck. Let me uncheck it. Okay, so let me uncheck that. It will not impact anymore, right? How we do measure if the site is performing as expected is stress test, load test. What is the good response time versus bad response time, depending on user count limitation. All right, so that's a good question, that how you measure if the site is performing as expected. So Kiran Cherry, the question you have is, how can you measure your website is performing expected? So first, so if you are going to test your website with the very first time, then you need to have a SLA kind of thing from your engineering team, from your architect team, that what actually your application is doing, how heavy your application is, all right, what other services is being called from your application, is it interacting with search engine, interacting with database, or doing some calculation. So it's a kind of thing that you need to aware of. If not, there would be a SLA kind of thing that would be given to you before performing any performance test, that this is what the response time your application should expect, this is what the CPU time, or this is what the memory your application should expect. Because initially you cannot say that what is the best for your application, but you must be having a roughly data, and upon performing a load or performing a test, so initially you are not aware that how much load you should put, either it's a 10 user load, 100 user load, 1000 user load. So the best way is to start with an incremental scenario. So what incremental scenario is, you start with a very few user load, you start with a 10 user load, just increase the user load, go increase, go increase, go increase, go increase. So this is what the 10 users, this is what the 50 users, this is what the 100 users, this is what the 500 users are. You make your users in an incremental manner, increase the load, check for the performance of your application. What you can check the response time, throughput in the sense hits per second. If you have an insight of the server, you can check the CPU, you can check the memory, and then you can decide that what actually, how well your application is performing. So at 100 users load, what is the actually CPU, right? What is the actually response time? So all these things you can conclude. But for the very first time, you need to have a SLA, or you need to decide with taking a baseline of your application. You need to take a baseline that say that at 100 users load, I got 80% CPU, I got 40% RAM, and our application, if go beyond, our application performance is degraded. So you can define a baseline, you can define a data point, and you can say that this is what your application is expected for now. And then with that data, with 100 users load, with 80% CPU, with 40% RAM, you can go with your engineering team or architect team with that data, presenting that this is what I am able to achieve for now. If I have to achieve more, then what's the next step? Then you can put the ball in their basket, saying that you need more optimization, or you can have a discussion based on this data. All right? Yes. So before any performance testing, you need to have a SLA kind of things. Right? So there is a document you must be having, SLA document, that defines the performance, or other thing you say it a NFR document. So what NFR document is, it's a non-functional requirement document that shows you that in that there is a situation mentioned that what should be the response time of your application, okay, with so much users, or what exactly is required from your application. So NFR can state that these are the number of threads I require, 1000 number of threads I require, or NFR can state that this is the response time I require, 100 millisecond of response time I require, 5 seconds of response time I require. Or your NFR state any characteristics that would be the target for your application. So based on that NFR, you can go start with your performance testing. All right. So definitely before starting performance testing, if you don't aware of, about the expected behavior of your application, you must be having a NFR document. Got your answer? Right. All right. So move to this because I'm having not so much time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a 3-thread test, ramp up in before that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a timer as well, random uniform timer. So what random uniform timer do? It puts a delay between the threads. So once it hits Snapdeal, it will wait for this much time. So make it 500. Make it 2000 or make it 3000. So all these stuffs don't mind, but for now to demonstrate you better, I'm just adding these things because to explain these things in detail it will take much time. So I'm trying to cover most of the things that will make you comfortable with JMeter UI and all these things. So just for now, this is what the uniform random timer is, that adds delay between the thread. These all are having a different meaning, but just ignore for now. I am just making a delay of 500 minimum and maximum of 3000 millisecond, right?
That will be in between the
threads. Yeah, you can say between the requests, because I'm having a single request, so that I'm referring as a thread for now. But if you have another request as well, then what will happen after hitting Snapdeal launch page? Say if you have a search page as well, then waiting this much of time, random from 500 to 3000, the next page will be hit. Okay, so this is a delay.
Next sampler will be executed
after this time. Yes, exactly. So there is a logic behind that. That why we do that, because if you go any website, you're not going to blindly hit one page another page, because you need to have some think time over there. You need to think what have to do, and you just wait some time looking over there, okay, and then click next. So this is what I'm trying to simulate here. So 3 users, 30 iterations, total 90 seconds, total 90 iterations will be happen. Right, so aggregate report, I'm just writing this report in a file because I'm going to generate results, right? So in this folder, I'm going to write this data with the name Snapdeal results underscore. All right, so Snapdeal results.csv, right? So you can make it CSV or JTL, Java text log. CSV is more familiar to us, so make it CSV. Right? So what will happen? All the results will be written with the inside this, right? This will hit all pages of the application. So we are hitting only Snapdeal launch page, right? Because this is what a single sampler we have in our thread group, and what sampler you have will be hidden by these threads. For now, we are only hitting Snapdeal launch page, www.snapdeal.com. Right? So run it. I'm just clearing that. So that 3,500. All right, so I have started that. Go to the aggregate report. So what I have put here, I have put ramp up of 1 second. All right, so all 3 users are started running. Just a minute. I'm just stopping it. I'm just trying to make the ramp up of 30 seconds so that 3 users will be active in 30 seconds. So 1 user will be active in 10 seconds. Here is the timer that shows. No, 3 users will be initiated, and yeah, 1 user will iterate 30 times, 3 users will iterate. Yeah. Right. So all 3 users will make 30 iterations for 90 minutes, right? So in that you will get a total of 90 samples. Run it, overwrite existing file.
If you want to check our application for more than 30,000 more than 30,000 users.
Sorry?
If our application has to test for whether the application is able to handle more than 30,000 users.
So put 30,000, more than 30,000 users.
You can take through the JMeter.
Yes. If your system is not capable enough to generate 30,000 users, you can add another system as well. So JMeter works in different ways as well. So if you have to generate 30,000 users that are quite enough for a single system, you can have another system installed JMeter, and so let's say you have 4 more systems running JMeter servers. You can start JMeter server on those 4 systems, and one system will be controlling all those machines. And you can generate load from those different servers. So this is one of the part that is in the course content if you have gone through the course.
Can you put load on multiple servers?
Definitely you can. You can add another thread group like Snapdeal. You can add Google.com. You can add Flipkart, or whatever servers you have. So
yeah, through sampler we can add multiple URLs or server domains.
Right.
We can add definitely.
Right.
So we can put load. Yeah. There is no other things, but only samplers.
Only samplers, different samplers with different URLs. All right. So we have completed 90 samples in 134 milliseconds with average of this throughput of 58.9 per minute.
Means 58 users.
Now, all these three users are generating a cumulative load of 58.9 per minute on slamdev.com. All 3 users, or whatever users you have, are generating a total of 58.9 per minute load. I mean, in a single minute, they are able to generate 58.9 hits. Got it? Not too confused, because yeah, definitely most of the things is not so easy to learn in just half an hour, 1 hour, right? So not to worry about that. We have ample of time to learn these things. Okay, so we have already written the results in this file. Now next is to generate the report from that file. All right, what else we are left in the agenda? Execution and monitoring. So monitoring we cannot do because we don't have a access to the server, but if I hit my local machine, I can monitor that CPU and all these stuffs. But no worry, so it's not so major. We have done executions, we have created performance plan, we have talked about features and benefits. So just jump to the reporting section. So easy to generate report. Only thing you need to just write the result in a file, have that location, go to tools, generate HTML report. So there is 3 options: a result file, CSV or JTL. This is one that we have written, right? CSV we have. User.properties file. This is what the file where your JMeter is running. So my JMeter is running inside JMeter Apache bin, Apache 5.1.1 bin. So inside bin you will find a file user.properties. Properties, right? So this file contains some information that how your results would generate. granularity, what should be, what is the abdex value. So these are terminologies that you can Google about. What is the abdex value of your application? Abdex, APDEX, application index, right?
We have to check these user properties option.
By default, you can leave left that, whatever it is, but on demand, you can tune that. If you need, for generate report, you need to make no changes for now. So one question is of Abhishek Gupta, what will be the duration? So look at the test plan. We have not put any duration, right? We just said that, hey, 3 users go complete 30 iterations. One user will complete 30 iterations. So in that way, 3 users will be completing 30 iterations and your test will be completed. So there can be another way to run this test is to make it forever. So all 3 users will be ramp up in 30 seconds and will continue running until you stop that manual, right? But we have put that 30 samples, right? Where I was on generating reports. Yeah, so I need to use the property file, user.properties. Just browse that where your not upload, just browse and just locate that where user.properties is inside JMeter bin user.properties. You have to browse the result folder that we have written. So we have written inside that in results, snapdragon results.csv, and the output directory where your output report will be generated. So in the result itself, I can make a folder, say HTML report, and I have point that folder in output directory and just click generate report. You will get your report generated quickly, report created. So you can access that report by going that folder, what that was inside JMeter and result and HTML report. So here we get a index.html. Okay, so it's HTML report. You can double click on it. This will be open in your browser. Here we have a abdex, right? So abdex is what? So this has a definition. So you can Google about that. So this tells that based on the toleration value and based on the frustration value, all right, and based on the response time that you got, it is been calculated. So abdex 1 is your application performing very well. Abdex 0 means your application performing very worst. So this is the kind of calculation that JMeter do for you, and this has a certain definition that you need to Google about. But for now, we are just leaving it, just considering that I got an abdex of 0.6, which is a fair abdex, all right, because my application average response time is 219, and we have put that at toleration of 200 milliseconds. But if I got my average response time beyond 500 milliseconds, these abdex will be lesser.
So abdex
would be worst, right? So these are the terminologies not to worry about for now. All right, so I have a question. All right, so okay. So this is what that says not okay. If you get error, it will be shown here. This is the minimum response time out of 90 samples. One sample was having 147 millisecond of response time. One was having a maximum of 668 millisecond of response time. This has the percentile that 90% of sample were under 247 millisecond out of 90 samples. So 90% of 90 samples were out of 247 milliseconds. Leave it for now. And transaction per second 0.98, right? 0.98 per second. Or 58.9 per minute. Make sense? Yes, you can open the CSV file. There is a question for Pooja. From Pooja, can we open the CSV file? Yes, definitely you can open the CSV file. You can go to the result HTML and you can edit with Notepad++ as well, or you can open that in Excel as well. All the stuffs you can analyze All right, so you can analyze the samples, elapsed times, and byte sends on all those things. Quite handy. Our results is generated. I was just showing you the result. So there are charts we have that you were asking about. So this is overtime chart. This shows that what was the average response time over time. So initially we got a 200 something response time, then it was down, then there was a spike as well. We got 668 millisecond of response time, which was captured in maximum response time, right? So at that point of time, we got a spike in response time. So this shows the pattern that what was the response time throughout this period. We started our test, and this time our test was completed, and this is what the response time was. Yes, this is in millisecond. Doesn't matter. Don't bother about. So don't look at the detail of what unit is, because we are just hitting the first page. But if your application is actually hosted somewhere, that would be depend upon the response time of that application. For now, we are just hitting the first page. That the only shows 200 millisecond. Right? It's in millisecond. Okay. You can zoom it from here as well. Right, you can make a zoom from here. It's a nice chart with the interactive options. Yeah. Elapsed time is what for what time your test was running. 1 minute and 34 seconds. So what was happening? One user was going, hitting website, coming back, going, hitting website, coming back. So that was happened for 1 minute and 34 seconds. So this is what the pattern shows, that what exactly happened during 1 minute and 34 seconds. One user goes, hit the website, get back, hit the website, get back, hit the website, get back. And this was what the response time during that period, 1 minute and 34 seconds. So it started at this point, 1544, ended at this point, 1545, 1 minute and something seconds. Elapsed time. Yes. This is what the 1 minute and 34 second. 1544, 1545, 34. Roughly to that. So because this was very quite less duration. So this is what 1 minute is. Yes. For the time our test was ran. So there are other graphs as well, percentile graphs, active threads over time, how many threads were active. So we have put 10 seconds of ramp up time. So for the first 10 seconds, one thread was there, and after 10 seconds, one thread was there, and after 10 seconds, one thread was there. And all these threads were running for 1 minute and something seconds, right? And finally, all threads were come down. Threads in the sense users in terms of JMeter, right? So these much of graphs you have. What was the connect time, right? And over time, along with that, you have throughput. What was the number of hits per second? What was the codes per second? You got only 200, right? If there are errors, 400 or 500 codes, you will be having an option to check, uncheck that data as well. These are the success. And so many graphs, right? So these graphs has different concepts and meanings. For now, this is just to demonstrate that these are what the power of JMeter, that you can write those results, analyze in Excel, customize those results, or you can generate these HTML graph as well. And you can download, save as PNG. You can share these graphs over as a PNG format as well, email and kind of things, right? You need not to snap it or something, right? You can just save it, and there is a response that you can do through Jenkins. That's another thing, right? That can be done. You can integrate Jenkins as well in JMeter, right? That can be done, but to be very honest, I am not so much fan of Jenkins because my role does not fit there. Right. So you can use. How can we rate the tool on below parameters? How can we rate the tool? So it's up to you that how much rating you are giving it. So Pooja, you want to talk? Just give me a minute now. Okay, so you have given so many things, right? Slack integration, managed code, API, web services, mobile AngularJS, Ajax, running runtime settings. Okay, so since in my opinion, I am using JMeter most frequently because it's so easy from the UI perspective, and if you have to do a API kind of testing, so it's the best tool I can say. Many things are available so quickly. You can drag, drop, make your test plan so quickly. There are so many functions available there. You can make use of those functions. Since this is a purely Java-based application, you can easily write your Java codes in the pre and post processor or JSR223 samplers as well. So it's a much customized or much customizable tool that I would say. Right. Compared to the other performance testing. So yes, exactly. So other performance testing tool, like if you go for free tools, so definitely this is going to beat all other tools that are available in market for free. But if you're going for paid tools, there are different benefits, but for that you need to have to pay a much amount for that. Yeah, but for free tools, this is one of the best tool that I can say that is available in the market. All right, guys. So, what other questions? After completing JMeter testing, which summary I need to share to developer in final iteration? Which summary I need to share to developer in final iteration? See, I'm not sure exactly what you mean to ask this question, but your test plan should be first I mean to say that you need to just overview this test plan, whatever you have created to the developers, that this is fitting the requirement of the developer or not. If you are running it for 30 minutes or 1 hour or for how many users, so first just make them aware that I'm going to run these much of users for this much of duration, and roughly these much of throughput, or you can say hits per second, we are going to generate that. So just make a discussion first, a formal discussion, so that it would be a better thing for you to make the decision that what exactly you have to show to the developer, irrespective of just running test without taking any confirmation on that. So better to take the confirmation and just have a formal discussion that we are going to run this much of users test for this much of duration. That will make your job easy, and that will help you out in presenting the report. You got your answer, Prerna? Okay, so Kiran, if you if you know the Java or the JavaScript concepts, for JMeter definitely you are not going to learn bin shell, because inside bin shell, let me demonstrate you. There is an option to choose the language, right? So if you go to the post processor, or you can say a bin shell JSR223 or bin shell post processor, so there is an option to choose the language. No, not the bin shell, sorry for that. But if you go to the post processor JSR223, both works the same. You have an option. Groovy is there, Java is there, JavaScript is there, JEXL is there, JXL2, JS, and Narshon. So if you already know the Java, most of your work will be done with the Java, and you will not be needing the bin shell or other language as well, because bin shell and JSR223 are the similar things that we can use in place of each other. Though all two do the same things, but JSR223, I would say that using with Groovy perform much better than bin shell. So better to use JSR223, and if you already know the Java language, you need not to learn other language like bin shell or JSR223. Yes, it's language. Sharon, do you get your answer? Yeah. Yes, please. JSR 223. Your last question, please, because we are already going beyond the time. So Nandish, actually to go to the terminologies, it's not just the definition. You can get the definition from Google as well. What is median, what is average, or what is 90th percentile. But to make you understand easily so that you will not need to learn another time, I need to go to the terminologies in a detailed manner or in a very detailed way. That will take time, and for now, sorry for that, because we are not having so much time to go to the terminologies for now. So there is a question that how many classes will be there in the course, in the entire course, right? So there will be around 12-13 classes, Saturday, Sunday, 2-hour classes every weekend. Yes, so gets and puts are same for bin cell and JSR 223. Yes, exactly. You can get the variable vas.get, vas.put. You can do the same thing in JSR 223 or in bin cell. All works same. Karen, this is the answer to your question. Can we get the recording of this session? Yes, definitely. You will get a recording of this session. So I'm not sure that your email IDs are there or not, but those who want the recording of this session, just drop me a mail on jmeter@way2automation.com, or probably this will be available public as well. But if you're not getting the link or any way to this demo session, recording session, just drop me a mail on this email ID. So you have question regarding Selenium, Abhishek? Definitely you can come tomorrow if you want. If you are in NCR and easily available to join the institute, you can definitely come here. And the session will be started on every Saturday and Sunday for 2 hours, starting at 2 p.m., 2 to 4. So we are going to start our next course tomorrow itself. All right, any questions from you? So there is a course content already published, right? If you are not having course content, just give me a mail on this email ID. I will circulate you the course content, what topics we are going to cover. So guys, regarding fee or regarding course content, just drop me a mail. You have Way2Automation email ID. You can drop at the JMeter@Way2Automation, or Selenium@Way2Automation, the one email ID that is available publicly on the website. You can drop your questions over there. Yeah, classes will be both online and classroom modes. So you can join the classes online mode, or if you have to join, you can come to the direct classroom classes as well from 2 to 4, Saturday, Sunday. All right, guys, any more question? Anyone has to talk, or just post your question? Yes, definitely. I will be available in this institute every Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 4 during the class. So if due to some situation you are not able to get your answer on email, on phone, on chat, you can definitely come to the institute, directly meet me. All right, so further any question or any query you have, just drop me a mail on JMeter@Way2Automation. So Ranbir, I have just sent you a message. Just check that out. All right, guys. So if you are done, and for now I have no more questions, so we will close this session. I will give you 2 more minutes to post your questions if you have. So Avyakti Gupta, so if you want the course content, just drop me a mail from your email ID at jmeter@way2automation. Just say that, give me the course content. I will definitely reply over there. I will provide you the course content. I'm not sure, but the course content was published on the website as well. So just go to the JMeter, just go to the Way2Automation website. There you will get a course content published over there. This is what the updated one. All right. Any other participants have any more questions? Just drop me a mail on jmeter@way2automation. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. So compared to oats, so what this oats is, could you please expand that? Oats, what is it? Not exactly aware of this term, maybe missing at that point of time. Oracle Application Testing Studio, I'm not exactly aware about this Oracle. ALM I have used, but not the Oracle one. So exactly cannot compare the point-to-point features and benefits. But what are the features and benefits that we have in JMeter? I have already covered that out. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye. Just a minute.